Donald Trump. Love him or hate him, there's no denying he reshaped the American political landscape and sparked global debates. But what if he'd never entered politics? What if the billionaire businessman and reality TV star had stuck to his old life, never running for office, never giving that famous escalator speech? How would the world look today if Donald Trump had never joined politics? Donald Trump was already a household name before his surprising jump into politics. Known as a real estate mogul, casino owner, and host of The Apprentice, he built an empire and a brand that embodied luxury and power. But despite years of teasing a potential presidential run, it wasn't until 2015 that Trump decided to turn his public persona into political capital. Today, we're taking a look at how things might have turned out differently if Trump had stayed in the business world. Let's start with 2016. The Republican primaries were packed with heavyweights like Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz. When Trump entered the race, his unconventional style turned the primaries into a spectacle, setting him apart from the traditional seasoned candidates. Without Trump, it's likely that one of these traditional candidates, Jeb Bush, for instance, would have taken the Republican nomination. But would they have had the same momentum against Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton? With Clinton as the likely frontrunner for the Democrats, a more conventional Republican candidate could have led to a very different race. Would a career politician like Jeb Bush have managed to capture the anti-establishment wave that Trump tapped into? Or would Hillary Clinton, without Trump's polarizing style in the mix, have gained the edge to become America's first female president? Now, let's talk about the media. Trump's candidacy was a game changer. His direct, often inflammatory approach gave news networks a constant material stream. In fact, his presence drove ratings through the roof and brought a new level of polarization to political coverage. Without him, would media outlets like CNN or Fox News have become so divided? And would the term fake news have become the cultural phenomenon it is today? Without Trump, the relationship between the press and the presidency might have been less adversarial. And on social media, political discourse might have looked very different. Trump's Twitter account became his direct line to the public, bypassing traditional news outlets. Imagine a world where politicians didn't communicate in 280-character sound bites, but through more formal channels. Would social media giants like Twitter and Facebook have faced the same scrutiny over political influence? Foreign policy is another major area where Trump's absence would have had massive effects. Trump brought a unique America First approach, often challenging long-standing alliances and questioning organizations like NATO. He also took a hardline stance on trade with China, sparking a trade war that redefined US-China relations. Without Trump, America's foreign policy might have continued along more traditional lines, with a stronger focus on alliances and multilateral agreements. Foreign policy is another major area where Trump's absence would have had massive effects. Trump brought a unique America First approach, often challenging long-standing alliances and questioning organizations like NATO. He also took a hardline stance on trade with China, sparking a trade war that redefined US-China relations. Without Trump, America's foreign policy might have continued along more traditional lines, with a stronger focus on alliances and multilateral agreements. Domestically, Trump focused on issues that divided the country in new ways. His administration's stance on immigration, emphasis on deregulation, and focus on conservative judicial appointments reshaped America's laws and political landscape. Without him, these debates might have looked very different. Take immigration. Trump's policies, from the border wall to travel bans, defined his presidency. But with a more moderate Republican in office, would America's immigration system have undergone the same changes? And on the Supreme Court, Trump's appointments cemented a conservative majority that will shape rulings for decades. Without Trump, the balance of the court could look very different today. Trump didn't just bring new policies, he introduced a new kind of populism that struck a chord with millions of Americans who felt overlooked by the establishment. Without Trump, this sentiment might have been expressed differently, or maybe wouldn't have reached the mainstream at all. Some political experts believe Trump gave a voice to a movement that was already brewing, a frustration with globalization, political elites, and economic change. But if he hadn't entered politics, could this populist energy have been channeled by someone? And what about 2020? The COVID-19 pandemic and an election year created unprecedented challenges for any leader. Without Trump, it's possible that a different administration might have handled the crisis differently, potentially leading to fewer disputes over public health measures and vaccines. And without Trump in 2020, we might not have seen the same level of division and claims of a stolen election. Would Joe Biden have been elected in 2020, or would a more traditional Republican candidate have held the White House? Would we have seen the same challenges to election integrity and democratic norms? Or would these aspects of American democracy have remained stronger and more stable? So, what if Donald Trump had never joined politics? While some things might have remained the same, there's no denying the major ripple effects his political career set into motion. From reshaping the Republican Party to fundamentally altering America's approach to media, foreign policy, and social media, Trump's presence on the political stage left an indelible mark. Whether you see his impact as good or bad, imagining a world without Donald Trump in politics reveals just how much one person can shift the course of history. In the end, perhaps this scenario shows us that political power lies not just in policy, but in personality and timing. And Donald Trump had both in abundance. What do you think? How would America and the world look today if Donald Trump had stayed out of politics? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more alternative history videos.